Hello.
Hello.
How are you ladies?
Good. Amy, it's so exciting. This is like a dream come true.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so honored that you're doing this. So thank you so much. I'm just checking I've got the right mic, I've got the right camera. Okay, I'm good. So I've been looking forward to this. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here and making the time. We really appreciate it.
So we are so excited to have you here today. I know we've said that. We are just so excited.
Thank
Um,
you.
we also wonder where this book was 6 years ago.
So same with me. The reason I wrote 2 weeks notice is because the book I wish I had. It's the book I wish I had when I was first starting out. So I hear ya.
Every single page in 2 weeks notice, we were just like, oh, wow, that's so helpful. The next entrepreneur has got so much. And yet, even with that, wow, I wish I had this 6 years ago. There is so much good information that we get to take forward
Good.
that is still like, this is going to help our business and our just ease of doing things so much.
Oh, love to hear that.
Yeah, in fact, we're redoing our website and we're using the chapter from your book to make sure that we get it right this time. And
Oh my
it
gosh. I love that. You know, a lot of people that will be listening, if they want to quit their 9 to 5 job and build an online business, this is literally the guidebook step by step. But there's a lot of people listening too that they've already started their businesses, but maybe don't have the strongest foundation so that they're not making the kind of money they want. They're not growing their email list. They're struggling. And so going back and saying, did I get this right? Or could I make this stronger? I think this book is going to help them as well. So my hope is that it helps a lot of entrepreneurs build amazing, successful businesses.
I love that. Yeah. So starting right off, right in the opening of the book, you shared a story that was really, both Sarah and I, we met when we were in Washington, D.C., and we are both in very male-driven industries as well. So when you shared the story about being in a room surrounded by male experts and you were just there taking notes, but
Oh,
that was like what spurred you on.
yeah.
It was such a moment of bravery and courage on your part. And I would love to hear you just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that was a huge pivotal moment for me. So my very last corporate job was with Tony Robbins, and Tony had brought in a bunch of guys to talk about their online businesses. So they went around and they were in different fields like relationship building, investing, real estate, so many different things. But they all owned their own businesses and they were all doing businesses online. So, like digital courses, memberships, masterminds, that kind of thing. And I didn't understand any of it, but all I heard was freedom. They were calling the shots. They were deciding when they work, where they work, how they work. They weren't on someone else's time or someone else's dime. And in that moment, I realized I've never been free. I've always had a boss. And I even went back to like when I was a child, my dad was really strict, his way or the highway. He was my first boss. He taught me what it looked like to follow someone else's lead. And then I get into the work world and I was really good at it. I was actually really good at having a boss. Like, tell me what to do and I'll do it even better than you think I will. Give me the raises, give me the promotions. I love the security of a 9 to 5 job. All of that was me. I never dreamed about being an entrepreneur. But when I realized I wasn't free, when I realized I'm building someone else's empire, when I realized I will always hit a glass ceiling, I thought something has got to change. So I wasn't super confident. I didn't have a lot of skills to bring into entrepreneurship, but I thought I'm going to figure this out because I don't want anyone telling me what to do anymore. It was just that simple for me.
And that is such just a beautiful example of self-worth. Like, right, that like something inside just loud enough of like, you know what? I found my worth in the perfectionism and the extraordinary achievements and doing all of this. And it's been really fulfilling, but it's something's nagging. Like, that's what I hear.
Yes.
And that first chapter, for us, we focus so much on self-worth. That first chapter, we're like, oh my God, this like the shift is around the worth. It's around that piece. And that goes into that using the voice. And one of my favorite parts was Jasmine saying, you ain't for everyone, boo.
Uh,
Right. Like,
right? Like so important. Let's talk about that for a minute because
let's talk
I'm
about that.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I am a people pleaser to my core. I'm not proud of it, but it is who I am. And I do work on it on a regular basis. I wanted everybody to like me online. And so when I first came out, I really watered down my message. I didn't want to be too polarizing. I didn't want to be too opinionated because I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. But what happens when you are more watered down is you get lost in the sea of the online noise. You are not special. You are not rising to the top. Your voice is not heard because it just feels like everybody else's. So when I realized I'm going to have to put a stake in the ground, if I'm going to teach people how to build businesses, this is how I think you should build it. Yes, I think you should have an email list. Yes, I think you should create content every week. Like things that maybe other people won't agree with. I know it's worked for me and it's worked for my students, hands down. So I started to put a stake in the ground and teach exactly what I think people should do. And there were people that didn't like it. And there was this one guy in particular that was very vocal. This strategy's wrong. You're doing that wrong. This is wrong. And other people started chiming in. And I instantly thought, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I was right. I don't have what it takes to do this. So I called up my good friend Jasmine Starr and I'm like, they're attacking me online. It might have been like 3 people, but it felt like 3,000 people. And so that's when she said, she kind of laughed like, huh, you ain't for everyone, boo. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're not Santa Claus. You can't make everyone happy every single day. And if you are, then you're not being your true self anyway. You're not even being authentic. Then she followed it up with, if they're not paying the bills, they don't get an opinion of your business. And that was like a really big turning point because I realized, oh, wait a second. I'm letting strangers on the internet dictate my self-worth and what I will do in my business where they haven't ran a business one day in their lives. Like that is ludicrous. So that's when I had started to have a bigger voice, but a kind of just stronger backbone. Like this is what I stand for. And that's when I found my groove. So I'm really passionate about that and talk about it a lot throughout the book.
And one of the things I love about that story is that it also brings up something that I think is really important in this journey and just self-worth in general is community and friends.
Yes.
And like,
Yes.
I don't know, this wasn't one of the questions that we put forth, but when you were sharing that, I was just like, once again, it's like lifting each other up and it's community that helps us to remember when we forget our authenticity, having people that can remind us of it and bring us back to it. I don't know if there's anything you can share about that.
Oh, I totally agree. One of the things that we have to be really very honest about is entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And when you get into your office, not having to work in an office and being able to work from home and getting on your computer is wonderful and can be very isolating. And so what I realized early on is I had to make an intention of making connections. I had to reach out to people. I had to really foster good relationships. And I'm an introvert to my core. So that is not something that comes naturally to me. And so I looked around at one point and realized I don't have many friends anymore. Like my business became my baby. I've got my husband and my son and my dog Scout, but I didn't really have much beyond that. So over the last few years, I've made a very big intention of making friends and real community. And I do that in my business. I build communities for other people to engage in. But for me as well, I've got a few core friends that are on speed dial. But one thing I noticed is I have to make the effort. I have to reach out to them. I have to check on them. I have to see how they're doing. And once I started to do that more consistently, they did it back to me. Now I have a few girlfriends that every day we are voice texting. What does your business look like? What's going on? What are you struggling with? How can I help? Every day. And it's a beautiful thing, but it starts with intention. If you're not putting yourself out there being a good friend, it's not going to come to you. And that's the part that's kind of hard for us introverts.
Definitely hard.
Definitely.
Thank
On
you. Go ahead, Sarah.
On that note of authenticity, there was the piece on showing up and showing up in front of the camera with makeup, hair done, like being you.
Yes.
Others were starting to say, if you were really authentic, you would show us a more vulnerable side with no makeup.
Yes.
And in this age of filters and makeup and all of that, would love to hear more about your take on showing up as you put together so gorgeously.
Okay, I love this topic because I have a little spin to put on it, like you said. So a lot of people say like be authentic, show up with your hair messy, no makeup, just like who you are on your days off and get on video and we just want to see the real you. And my audience started saying that like when I would put out photos from photo shoots back in the day just a few years ago, that's all anyone did. We did photo shoots and then we would put them up on social. But they started to like not convert at all, meaning no one would engage with those because they knew they were manufactured. So starting to put just like quick snapshots up or photos I take of myself and all that, that worked really well. But I want to be clear that to be authentic means you genuinely have to be who you are. I am not somebody who's showing up on video looking messy. I was raised with a mom that she didn't even go to the grocery store without doing her hair and makeup. Like that's who she was at her core. And that's who I was raised by. So I like to get ready. It makes me feel energized. It makes me feel put together. This is me. This is who I like to be in my business. I'm not faking it. This is genuinely me. So I put the effort in. But if it was genuinely me not to be this way and I was trying to do a persona, then people would definitely get that, know that, and not want to engage with me. So my point is be who you are. If you like to get ready, if you like to put makeup on, if you want to look your best, go for it. If you like to be as casual as possible, no makeup, hair in a top knot, be you. But don't let other people tell you who you should be because I almost started to do it. My audience was like, be more casual. Like, I'm just being me, my friends. This is who I am. But it also gave me a sense of confidence to say, oh, I know who I am. Okay, I'm very clear. This is who I am. I'm not faking it. Now, there were other things that in the early days, I felt like I had to sit up straight and use all the proper words and be prepared and have my outline for everything. I used to do that. That was not me. I thought I had to do that because I came from corporate. That's all I knew. So now I just jump on here. I didn't prepare notes for this. I know what I want to share. I can be off the cuff and casual, but that doesn't mean I have to look a certain way because my audience thinks I should. Be who you are and you will shine. And I feel very strongly about that.
Thank you so much. Sarah and I, we have conversations about that all the time because we have very different perspectives. I'm usually less made up. My hair is dry, but that's
you.
It's me. Yeah, exactly. But even I still use filters. Like we have this technology. Like I have makeup on right now. It's like, why not make ourselves feel comfortable and beautiful and take up space?
Yes. Take up space. I love that. I don't think anyone should feel bad for wanting to do their hair or not wanting to do their hair. And I want to point out, men aren't having these conversations, and that frustrates me. They don't have to. It doesn't matter how they show up. It's not a conversation. And so I don't think it should have to be a big issue with us as well. I think we should just be allowed to do our thing.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
We have more important things to think about than if we should do our hair or not. We just do what we want, and then let's build those funnels, build those email lists, and let's get our message out there.
Yeah, because what you highlight there too is like the worth is within and how we show it is an expression. Like, but like nothing has to do with the expression is wonderful, it's beautiful, it's great. And like so much deeper. Like, let's be seen for what's in.
So true. Amen to that.
So we've talked about this a couple of times, not so much in depth, but the unbossing, that phrase that you use.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'd love to hear you talk about it because it's such an amazing term, but particularly how unbossing and like really stepping into that role, whatever that might be, can help you to embrace your passion, your worth, and like find your way.
Yes. Okay. So before I called the book 2 Weeks Notice, the first title was Unbossing. And I loved that term. But then I thought, you can't name a book of something that you have to always explain. So we went with 2 Weeks Notice instead. But unbossing, it's this concept of believing that you have the capability to lead yourself. You do not need anyone else to lead you. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I know for me, my first boss was my dad, his way or the highway. Then I get into corporate and I've always had a boss. And so I've always been able to follow direction. Like I said, I was good at that. And so when I went out on my own and I looked around and thought, no one is watching. No one cares if I get the work done today or not. No one's telling me what to do. And no one's giving me promotions or atta girls or rewards either. So I have to make that worth myself. I have to feel worthy myself. But even before I feel worthy, I have to believe that I really do have what it takes to lead, to make the decisions, to course correct, to troubleshoot, to figure it out. I didn't know what the heck I was doing 14 years ago, but I believed that I could figure it out. Now, I got to tell a story that I don't tell a lot, but when I went out on my own, I started to do social media for small businesses. It's very different than the business I have today, which anyone listening, I want you to know that what you start out with, that first offer, does not need to be your end all be all. It's just to get started before you're even ready. That's kind of how you do it. You just put something out there that you can make money with. And so I did social media with small businesses. But I also was a contractor for big businesses. So I would help with their launches, or Social Media Examiner is a very big website. When it first started, I was the community manager. Michael Stelzner hired me as a contractor to be the community manager. Well, essentially, I had a bunch of bosses still. Like Michael Stelzner was a boss of mine, and these other guys running these businesses, pretty much all men, were still my bosses, even though I was out on my own. It's very easy to get back into the boss mode of letting other people direct you. So it took a few years for me to fully unboss myself and say, never again. I think the last chapter in the book, I tell a story I don't want anyone to know, but I knew I had to tell it, where I really stepped back into being bossed and what it cost me years into my business. So this is a learning and unlearning kind of thing, especially if it's very ingrained in you. But ultimately, I will say today I am absolutely unbossed, and my life is so much better for it. But it is a process if you've been in 9 to 5 for a long time.
Totally. And in that, there's that piece of the unbossing that you are so beautifully well said, of like, you're not afraid to share your failures or your unlearnings.
Yeah.
How do you still find your worth as an entrepreneur, not getting the addict girl, like all the things, when you're failing or something you thought would really work doesn't, and you still get back up? I mean, that's in the book. It is just like over and over, like, yes, I'm getting up and succeeding. And you do that so well.
Okay, this is a beautiful question. How do you find your self-worth when things are not working? And in the first few years, they usually don't work as planned. I mean, my first launch, I made $267, where I thought I would make $100,000. Like, it didn't work for a long time for me, and I barely scraped by. So how do you find your worth in that? Well, the first thing is that you have to be really clear why you want to be your own boss. What does that mean for you? And in the beginning, it's usually selfish. For me, I didn't want to be on someone else's time or someone else's dime. I didn't want to be told what to do, when to do, or how to do it at all. I did not want a boss anymore. That was my biggest why. I wanted freedom. I wanted white space. I wanted to work when I wanted to work. So that pulled me through. So when I did my launch, that was a big flop. I had to remind myself, I had a few days of crying, and then I reminded myself, but I really want freedom. So what if we try that again in a different way? I was still very crushed. I even thought I wasn't cut out to do this, but I did not want to go back, because my why was, I got to figure out this freedom thing. And so when you're in it and it's not working, we talked about Jasmine Starr. She's been such a beautiful teacher and friend of mine, because another thing she said to me, so the story that I didn't want to tell, but I tell in the last chapter, I was at my very, very wit's end. I thought I would lose my entire company. And she said, and I told her, you know what? If I lose it, I will burn this thing down and build it back better. There's just like one moment that finally it clicked after a year of struggling. I said, if I lose this business, I will burn it down and start it over. And she said to me, then you've already won. If you're in the game, you have already won. If you're staying here, you've already won. So for those of you who are listening, that things aren't working, the launches aren't as good as you want, the email list isn't growing, this isn't working yet, you're still here. You're listening to us. You're in the game. You've already won. The minute you step out, no, but you're still in it. You're golden. You're right where you are meant to be. Tell yourself that every day. I've already won because I'm still in the game. Period. Hard stop. And that has really carried me through.
Oh, that was beautiful. Amy, you just made me tear up.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's like it was a huge lesson for me. And something I've never talked about before, Jasmine recently went through a really hard thing in her business. And I sent her flowers. And this is years after that story I just told you. And all I said in the card was, "You're still in the game. You already won. Done." And it was like something we just carry with us because for me, 14 years in, her, I don't know, she's 10, 12 years in, she's still in the game. She had a really hard situation in her business. She didn't leave. She's already won. And I think we just need to, I hope everyone adopts that because it's very true.
All the
Such
field.
a thing. Yeah. We're here, we're doing it. And so this kind of goes with that, like when things aren't succeeding as much, and when we're worried about money.
Yeah.
What exactly, do you have any strategies for dealing with money anxiety? Um, like if you're scared to quit, or if you're scared to like really truly become your own boss, like what are some things that you recommend people do?
So, number one, we have to normalize being afraid, but doing it anyway. Because, of course, you're going to be afraid. Leaving behind a regular paycheck and benefits to go out on your own, of course, that is terrifying. I was never ready, but I did it anyway. And many people are never ready, but they do it anyway. So, that's the first thing. We're going to normalize, of course, you're nervous about the money. Number two, I think we need to get clear on how much money we really need to get by. Now, notice I said get by. I didn't say to take those wonderful vacations and to get the wood floors in our kitchen and to live a luxury life. Not yet. That's coming, but not yet. And so, how much money do we need just to get by in that first year to give yourself some space and grace to try things, mess up, have the $267 launch, whatever it might be? And so I really do think that we need to get clear on our finances and then ask ourselves, where am I willing to cut back or sacrifice for a short period of time? This is not my life. This is a season of life that I'm going to cut back on. And if you're willing to do that, it makes it easier so you don't need to make as much money that first year. The other thing that will ease that money anxiety is a side hustle. I don't talk about this in the book, but everything I teach could be a side hustle first before you make it a full time thing. And I started a side hustle in the sense that I didn't even know that's what it was called. I didn't identify it as that, but I just took a few clients while I was still working for Tony Robbins. So I would do their social media at night, weekends, on my lunch hour, and I would bring in a little extra money just to prove to myself that I'm willing to put myself out there and try something. And I actually hated it. I don't like taking clients one on one. I don't want to do social media for my clients. However, I knew I could do it and I needed to make some money. So it's funny what you're willing to do in the beginning just to get it started. And these days, 14 years later, my husband and I, one of our dreams was to have a lake house. And we moved to Nashville 2 years ago and bought a lake house about an hour and a half outside of where we live. And we were there this weekend, and I looked at him and I said, "Do you remember how bad we wanted this like 10 years ago? And it felt like it would never happen." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I remember $40,000 in debt. I remember when your business wasn't working. I remember it all." And I think when you get it, and my friends, you will get it. Whatever you want, if you stick with it, you will get it. You will enjoy it so much better when you think of what you sacrificed to get there. I think that's just human nature. So you'll be so proud of yourself, but you got to be willing to make those sacrifices in the beginning.
Oh, we could talk to you all day. And for the listeners, Sarah and I are just nodding the whole time. So we hope you're nodding too. I
I
think
love
my
it.
head is like a bobblehead right now. We are almost out of time. So we just want to see, is there any last message? First of all, everyone should get this book and
Thank
2 weeks
you.
notice. It's amazing. The amount of highlights. I have a 2012 Kindle, so I keep taking pictures with my phone of it,
Oh
which is
my gosh, so
a
good.
special way
Santa
of
better bring you a
remembering.
new Kindle. I love it.
Paper books. So I'm just like doing a little of both. That all said, do you have any last words for our audience of like that journey, particularly around like the self-worth that you just exude? You have this confidence and this like air about you that's like, we got this, that inspires so many women and so many people to follow their dreams.
I love that you said that. And if my husband Hobie was here right now and he heard you say like you exude that confidence, I don't think he would say, yeah, she does. Like, and outwardly he would, but because he knows me so well, he knows the things I struggle with. He knows those conversations we have behind closed doors where I'm afraid or fearful or whatever it might be. And I say that to say, everyone has those feelings. I'm 14 years in with a multi-million dollar business. I still have those feelings. But here's what's different, and I want people to hear this. I still have imposter syndrome. I still struggle with, am I capable of doing this? Launching a book, never before, having to do things I've never done before. I'm uncomfortable all the time, which is a good thing. That means I'm growing. But where it's different for me now than, let's say, years and years ago, is when I tell Hobie what I'm scared of or fearful. I don't crumble and want to hide anymore or say, I'm not cut out to do this. I think, well, I've been through this before. I've got through it. I'll figure it out. I'm scared. Yeah. And I want someone to know. So find your people that you can confide in and be honest and real with. But then also tell yourself or remind yourself, I've been through hard things before and I'm still alive and standing. So I'll figure this out. So what's different between the me now and the me then is not that I'm not scared or fearful or anxious about things, but I can step out of it really quickly and keep going. I know I can be uncomfortable and still succeed. I know I can be scared and still do the thing. And I know I could always figure it out because I've unbossed myself. I'm the only person I need to rely on. So I just want people to hear it comes with time, but you got to start before you're ready. You got to get out there and start doing the things, and that confidence will start to build. I do feel very confident, even though I have my bad days. And I know that is with time. Give yourself time, space, and grace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. This has been so fun. And I love the focus on self-worth and knowing what you're worth and really, really being mindful of that. It means everything to entrepreneurship and being your own boss. So the work you're doing is so important. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you,
An
Amy.
honor. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, ladies. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.